Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 43 of the Run to Hills podcast. My name's Gary Thwaites, and I can't wait to hear from my co-host, Edwina Sutton, all the way from a epic weekend. Well, not quite weekend, but epic adventure.
What an adventure. What highs, what lows, what back chaffing. As we've been preparing the show, I've been like, don't scratch the back chaffing. Don't start scratching. Yeah, God, I feel like I'm a different person from when I last talked to you, because I think it was the day before we recorded, didn't we? Because we recorded early because I was going.
Yeah.
And so much has happened. I don't know where to start. Oh, we had a most amazing time. It was a proper adventure and loved all the pain and all the good stuff. And I was with 3 other amazing girls who I've promised that what goes on Mont Blanc stays on Mont Blanc. I did keep saying, don't mention this, Eddie. Do not mention this bit in the podcast.
Is it normally Las Vegas? Things stay in Las Vegas.
It's like the worst hen party. But it was such a good crew because we all had our strengths and weaknesses. And obviously I have done quite a few. I've done a lot of long runs. I've done a lot of multi-days. So I could bring a lot of chaffing lube talk, trying to keep this PG, and blister and fueling. And I did a lot of, come on, we need to just keep moving forward. And then then the others had a lot more mountain sort of experience, high mountain experience than I did. There was a lot of snow. Anyone that's done UTMB or CCC, anything over about 2,000, anything over about 2,000 meters you were on snow for most of it. And then, but still below that, there was a lot of snow in what the French called the névettes, in the where the waterfalls come down the gullies. The snow was still in the gullies.
Oh, wow.
And so, those were tricky. We had some terrifying moments. The high passes on snow were actually fine because the path was well trodden. And we had crampons. And so as long as you had your crampons and your poles and you didn't look down, they were fine. You just kept moving. I mean, oh my God. They 2 of the girls were very good and they've done a lot of, climb Mont Blanc and climbing. I don't like those vertical drops. Yeah. When you and on snow, you put your crampon in. I did get much better at it, but you put your crampon in. And if you slip, you're dead, basically. You're just And I did have a few, we laugh about it, but I had a few moments when one leg would start, they called me Elvis, because one leg would start shaking, the shake would start, and I'd be like, just keep moving, keep talking, keep moving, stop, stop. Goodness. And then they'd be chatting and they'd stop and I'd be like, don't stop here. So that was good for Eddie. Always good to go outside your comfort zone and to conquer those fears and that anxiety. So by the end, I did get much better at those high passes. But
I think I'd be still there.
You'd be there.
I'd be still locked. I'd be locked on the side.
To pull the jelly babies across. They were like,
my leg would be shaking.
Yeah, proper shakes. But you've got to control that because you can't start shaking, because if you start shaking, you might slip. We had a few, but that was all part of the adventure. And there was nobody there. We literally, the first day, we probably saw 8 or 9 people. And so we had these huge snow passes all to ourselves. And actually it was quite nice when we did see somebody, we'd see somebody on the descent, we'd be like, it's okay. Yeah. There's somebody else here. That was amazing. Yeah. The worst bit was the snow in the waterfalls. Yeah. You get these things called snow bridges. So the waterfall's now going under the snow, and there's a bridge of snow, which is at this time of year, they're really dangerous because if you tread and you go through, so we had a few of those crossings where, you had to go one at a time, really slowly. I was good. Probably the only time I went silent for the whole thing. And I was like, oh my God, bless me, Lord Jesus.
You spat me tea out when you said.
Let me get across this. Yes, we had a few, and we actually went along one. Just, I'll say the names because then people will know if they've done this. You get a refuge Bonatti, which I think is I recognised all the names from when you follow UTMB,
Okay,
and it goes along to Elena, and it's a sort of up and down path, and there were a lot of these crossings, and I fell on one. And I started sliding down this like snowbank, and I could hear the girls shouting, no, Eddie, no. And I was like trying to dig my pole in. Oh my God. And then anyway, I climbed back up, got back on the path, and then they were all just pissing themselves going, your face was hilarious. So I was like, your faces were hilarious. I thought I was plunging to my death. So anyway, we went along this path, and it took us a long time because you have to do it one at a time, and you had to like scope out where the best bit was to cross this path, and then take the crampons on and off all the time. And when you've got a big backpack and you're tired, you're like sitting down. It's like giving birth again, you're sitting down trying to get these crampons on. And we started climbing up Col Ferret. Yeah, Col Ferret, and this guide was coming down, and so never sure what languages people are speaking because you're going through all these countries.
Yeah.
Vous parlez français? And they were like, yeah. And we're like, that path was, these guys were a bit older. We were like, you got crampons because it was dodgy. And they were like, the guide was like, we're not going down that path. That's well dangerous. There's a track just down there that you can go on. And we were like, oh my God, it's taken like 3 hours to come along this track, fearing of our lives. Eddie almost plunging to death. And there's a road just down there, you guys.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, that would have been cheating.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we had. The snow was the snow and the backpack were the two things we hadn't really taken. Sort of me, and it's my fault. I hadn't really thought about them. I put my backpack on in Les Houches, and I was like, oh my God, this is so heavy. 8 kilograms, 9 kilograms.
Full of Chia Charge.
Cutting into my shoulders. And that was probably the worst bit for me, the chaffing. And then the weight of the backpack, like there's just no respite from it. So you're going downhill and your feet are shoving into your trainers because of the weight of the braking. So actually it was lovely on snow because you could just ski down the snow, whooping, because we're all girls, and you didn't have to shove your toes in. And then the going up I didn't find so bad with the backpack, but then just the running, I think we suffered on the bit. You come down to La Foulie, and then you run along to Champac-Slac, which is a long, just flat along the river. And you often see that bit on the UTMB because they're like, if they're running that bit, you're in it. So I was like, we've got to run this bit. But we really suffered because our feet with the weight, and our feet got so wet because of the snow. We were in snow for like 3 or 4 hours on these passes. So the trench foot was pretty bad.
Yeah, how did everybody else fare?
Highs, epic highs, epic. Some lows. Yeah, the blisters were bad, but I taught them, I have this it's disgusting. I have an old kid ski badge, which has got really sharp, really good pin on the end.
Yeah.
Bit of hot water. I'll do with it. Yeah. Here's all my blisters with that. Bit of Compeed, bit of but I'm kind of, I just like to put my foot, I clean my blisters, I pop them, I dress them. And then I just get on with, there's nothing you can do, is there? You've just got to. No. So we got good at a lot of blister management, and the girls were, girl power, amazing. No, we didn't see any other girls out there across the snow crevasses. So strong. I've never done anything like that before. Yeah. There was Eddie going, come on, it'll be fine. And 3 days is quite some big days, and it took us a lot longer because of the snow. Than if you could just you get up high. So we got really, really dehydrated a few times because the snow took us so much longer, and it was like 30 degrees, even though there was snow. And some of the troughs went on or well dodgy. Some of the snow melting was gross because so some of the streams I did drink it because a couple of times I was like, I'm so desperate. I'll take the dysentery. Did
you have a little filter in your bottles and stuff like that?
Well, we didn't, because we were all live here and we drink out the streams all the time. So we were like, it's fine. But actually up high when it was a bit grubby, You could see stuff like swimming in the water in your bottles. I just drank it.
When you're drinking the lakes and like 50 meters up the stream, there's a dead sheep. It's like, no.
Yeah. So I wish we had to again. We would have taken that. We'd have taken it. We ran out a bit of food because again we were that little bit longer. So yeah, we had some moments when we were like, somebody's got a Chia Charge. Search the rucksack for a Chia Charge bar, or somebody would have loads, and we'd sort of stand there going,
yeah,
go on, eat it, take this Chia Charge bar and this salt tablet, make a sandwich.
Yeah, anything.
What
was the accommodation like?
Well, we didn't see it much because we got there so late and then got out again early. Our first day we went to a refuge called Elisabetta, which was at the bottom of this big snow pass, right, teetering on the rocks, 2,600 I think it is, and the wind was like woo, and none of the snow had melted to the front of it, which was really steep drop off. So it was people that we were the only people there because you couldn't get to it really in the morning when we had to come down off it. It was pretty terrifying because it was like a sheet ice. You had to like traverse across it. You could see the road like 300 meters underneath it, but you had to like go across it to then get down. Anyway, so it's basic, but run by a lovely, they ended up being Spanish, and one of the girls I was with was brought up in Spain, so she is bilingual. So then they were like,
oh wicked.
And we had, so you run all day, and then we had 2 slices of cheese and like 4 little roast potatoes and some green beans, and we were like, oh, can we have the bucket of the roast potatoes? And because we're the only ones there, I don't think they had this like heater on in the boot room, but that was it. And so it was really cold. And that really had like down jacket that we had on, hat, leggings, cold. And then we had to leave at 6 o'clock the next morning because we had a huge second day.
Okay.
So we didn't have, they left out some bread, so like a piece of bread. I mean, it's proper. It was proper. And we were like, well, we'll get to Courmayeur and get some, and go to and treat ourselves to like something in a shop. But by the time we got to Courmayeur, one of the passes was like only ropes, so we started going up it, and we couldn't get up there because it was too dangerous. So then, by the time we got to Courmayeur, anyway, we're like, we can't even go the 50 meters into town because it just seemed too much of an effort to then stop because we had to get on. If I did it again, I would probably do it over 4 days and 3 days, so there was a little bit more time to refuel rather than just constantly eating on the go. Because we were like, we were aware we had to be in Champex-Lac. We were meant to be there at 6, and actually in the end we didn't get there till well after 8 because my fault, I hadn't factored in how long the snow passes were going to take some of us who had a bit of disco leg going on. But I mean, the scenery, oh God, I'm totally inspired to do that race.
I'm finding it hard to visualize when you're seeing like these kind of ice bridges and only by ropes. You know, I've seen pictures of these, the region and stuff like that, but I've never been there.
Well, by the time the UTMBs run, I imagine there's tiny little patches of snow, but that's all gone. And I was quite amazed at how, I mean, there's a huge amount of climbing, so it's not runnable I'm sure Kilian trots up all of it, but the paths are, I hadn't realized till I did my research that it's walked by like 30,000 people a year or something like that. It's one of the most popular walking trails in the world. And so the paths are well trodden. There's no like, even single track is pretty wide. There isn't any ropes, you know, on a normal round. It's not easy, but the things that make it hard, the climbing and the altitude, is not actually the terrain is lovely and the scenery, and you are really in the middle of no phone signal. You really are in the middle of life in the mountains. So,
it sounds magic.
We had such a magic time, so many laughs, so many. What was amazing was like the team spirit, and then we'd meet the odd people, or we'd stop at refuges to fill up our bottles, and they'd be like, "So, what are you guys doing? You know, have you just come up from Courmayeur?" We'd be like, "No, Les Houches," and they'd be like, "On the bus." You took the bus. We're like, no, we're running it. Yeah. And then they'd be like, oh my God, have this cheese toasty, this Coke, come on. So it was great. It was so great to just be out and forget about anything else, no phone signal. What a dream. To hurt myself a bit. Oh my gosh. The girls were like, Eddie, you are some sort of a little bit frightening and a little bit disgusting. I just love all that pain and all that dealing with all that blisters and the chaffing and the fueling and we went up one climb just out. If you've done CCC, oh my God, the start of CCC is a brute. It must be like 40% straight uphill for 1,000 meters.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's horrible. And we're going up there and I put my sun cream on. I learned this, to not put sun cream on until the first climb. After first climb, when you're going downhill, to let it soak in. And I got so hot and bothered, and my backpack was like sitting cheese knives. What are that cheese wire? That's it, on my shoulders. And so I couldn't like pole up the hill because it was like rubbing on my only bony bit of my body, which happened to be my collarbone. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so sick. Even like Chia Charge bars and tailwind wasn't going down well. So I was like, I'm really sorry. I'm just going to have to stop and be sick. And I just planted my poles and just, you don't eat breakfast, just planted my poles and just went, right, come on. Got another Chia Charge bar down me, little electrolyte tab. Off we go, and the girls were like, oh, Eddie. I was like, that's just, as ultra runners, that's kind of like your rally. It's all about actually what our guest on this week's show talks about, coping with the unexpected and the barriers.
Problem solving.
And the problem solving, and then just moving on and forgetting about it. So, we had the best time. What a crew. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. Definitely inspired to do the race. Yeah. Definitely. I feel like actually it'd be something, because it's just all about grit. It's just about gritting it out. There's not a lot of
watch this space.
Not a lot of brain needed. This is my sort of race. You just need to be a bit crazy. And I felt very comfortable, apart from on the snow ledges. I felt very comfortable on it because it is a lot of what we run around here every day. So yeah, I definitely looking at it.
Oh, that'd be good. I know just the more I spent on the fells, the easier and the more comfortable I got going down this kind of steep descents. Fantastic. Very exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. What about you? And then I came back. I just finished the whole story. I came back, and then so not much sleep in these refuges because they're either freezing or stinky, or you're like bed bugs or whatever, and you're so dehydrated. Did I send you the picture of me on the third day with my eyes like?
Well, I've seen when you weren't looking very clever.
We were so dehydrated, and then I came back. We got back late Friday night, and then my two oldest went off on their various school trips that the French government had said. So then I had to get up at 4:00 the next morning to get one off. And then the next day, 2:30 to get one off on their school trip. So at the weekend, I couldn't function.
I still feel tired.
Well, can you tell us a little slur? I'm on the whiskey. No, we had an early night last night. I only got one child now. For a week. I mean, this is a dream.
Easy
and she can't tell the time, so I was like, bedtime.
I've done that before.
So that was almost worse than the 3-day trek, was the getting up, the tiredness of the 3-day trek, and then the having to get these slightly nervous, highly strung, anticipating children off on their school trips. But
I used to love that as a kid, going off on a school trip.
Mum waking you up, going, it's time to go, let's go. And then off they've gone, and they are so lucky. They are so lucky. They'll have the best time. Anyway, I'm going to get told off for talking all about me. I'm going to get trolled again, Gary.
It must be 20 minutes in, are we?
How many weeks post BG are we now?
Is it 2 and a bit?
2 and a bit.
Yes,
how are you feeling?
Still
haven't shaved the.
No, well, I'm very literally. I don't think I could actually grow a proper beard. This is about as good as it gets.
No, you need to have a lot of testosterone.
I'm very lazy with my facial hair and hygiene. We've discussed this last week. Yeah, 2 and a bit weeks. I'm kind of back on plan. It's silly, really. I'm on but straight on the taper, really, because I've got this St. Cuthbert's Way coming up which is 3 weeks, I think.
Next weekend, isn't it?
No, it's the weekend after.
No, weekend after. Got 2
Yeah,
weeks.
I think so. I'm so confused with everything at the moment.
Do you have to do it?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I know the guys, Trail Outlaw guys, so I don't want to like bin it off. And also, I've got a friend who's doing it too, so I'd leave him in the lurch if I didn't.
Are you doing it together?
Well, we're traveling together, we're camping out.
Okay.
But, yeah, Justin and I, it's Justin, my training partner,
Speedy Justin.
So we could, in theory, stay together, but he's probably, while I've had a big event and then 2 weeks of eating rubbish and not doing much, he's carried on. So he's probably in better shape than me. So we probably won't stay together. We'll just see how it pans out. They had a race on Sunday, the Trail Outlaws Penshaw Half Marathon. So I suppose once the dust settled on that, they'll start then focusing on the kind of ins and outs of the St. Cuthbert's Way. But I'm looking forward to it. It's just, you know what it's like. I want to kind of do okay, but I'm not really in the mind frame to do okay. And I've looked at it stupidly. I've looked at the times, and it's not even like the course record seems quite attainable if I was focused on that. So I've got this mental kind of my competitiveness thinks, oh, that's doable. But is it Kipchoge said, don't chase two rabbits at once.
Kipchoge is very wise. I think you need to wipe that whole. You need to just do it as a day. I think if anything, just do it to get your head back in the game.
Yeah,
because you're probably gonna feel fine because you're gonna have rested legs for like 50k, 60k, and then I pretty much put money on it that you're gonna be like
the weekend before. It's not a problem. It's going to be great. I'm doing a 10-hour Bob Graham round with doing leg 2 and 3 of somebody else's Bob Graham round. So I've got 10 hours in my legs on the Saturday before.
So just do it. You know, it's a lovely route, amazing experience, and just you're going to have to take the ego and put it in your picnic box.
I know.
For another race, it's not your big race, and you can't let it be because otherwise you're going to be, you know, you'll get to like 60k ish and just be the saddest Gary around because that will catch up with you, and then you'll just run into more fatigue later on. So you know.
It is
what it is. What's after that? Because sometimes it's good to look further down the line to sort of.
London is the next. There might be some cross country.
Larry, that is huge. You should London, start tapering.
I just sent Valencia. Valencia sent me an email to see if I was going.
Asking if you're on the elite start. Do you want a place?
I got
the same.
But they asked me if I was going to take the place. I could get a refund still, and I said no, we're going to do it. So Valencia is my goal. So that's where I'll be kind of training.
London is your goal. Don't now start going, oh, Eddie, I'm not really training for it. It's no big deal.
I'll race you on the day.
I'll get you. I'm definitely getting those. I'm getting a whole carbon plated body.
I am. It sounds crazy, but I don't know if it is crazy actually. But I'm thinking literally now, all my focus on Lakeland 100. So I'm thinking, you know, St. Cuthbert's Way is fine, but then doing a bit of kind of the faster stuff, the marathons and stuff like that. And we're probably doing lots of Bob Graham round stuff. And then there's going to be all county tops, Durham Dales, trail race near where I live. So I'm fully kind of invested in Lakeland 100 really, mentally. So fingers crossed I can get in. So that's all these, like a bit like, normally say for a marathon, I might do a little 5K period before I start the marathon training. But with it being 100 miler, I think maybe I'll do a marathon training block.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of those like London and Valencia. There's a good, you know, London's October and Valencia's December. So there is a good half decent gap between the two. But yeah, I've not told you what I've done this week. Mine's really dull compared to your adventures.
Well, it makes a change because I've had nothing to say for about the last 3 months. I've just talked about heinous training sessions. So it makes a change that you've just been sitting at home scratching your...
My scratching. Well, I had my second COVID jab.
Ooh.
And they tell you when you have your jab, keep hydrated, take lots of paracetamol and all this and that. And they don't say go out to the pub and drink 4 or 5 pints of San Miguel. and I didn't feel too good on Friday.
Was that the day of your second jab?
Yeah, I literally had the jab at 3:30 and then went out.
Listeners, do not do that.
No,
That's terrible. You must have felt awful on Friday.
In the morning, I thought, this is not right. I can't.
From a man who went a few weeks ago into this like focused Bob Graham, you've turned it round. I love it.
Yeah, I'm easily led. Yeah, I felt, I would have felt normally a little bit hungover off 5 pints.
A little?
Yeah. It was 4.5 or 5 pints. But now I woke up on the sofa at about 2 a.m, so I didn't even make it upstairs that night.
It's proud moments.
Yeah, still doing it, still rocking it. But then I felt dreadful all day. So I thought it was I think the jab took over, the side effects of the second jab took over.
The jab.
But yeah, the jab. But running wise, it's been pretty easy, actually. I took your advice. I was probably doing a little bit too much too soon with my kind of 10 mile a day. So I think a few days I didn't even run. But yesterday I went out and did an easy run. Today is a so-called, I think it's 5 times 600s. So not a massive session. Just get the legs moving over again. I got a bread maker. That's my big news in the Thwaites household. Father's Day bread maker.
Middle class.
Middle age, I think more middle class. You know what we did? This is really great content. I tried to, when we go to Finland, we buy this rye bread and it's like, oh my goodness, I could just eat this dark rye bread. I've tried to make it a few times in England and failed every time. Yeah. So I bought the bread maker and yeah, it's pretty good so far. Bashing out.
What have you made? You can make all sorts, can't you?
I tried, you made jam in it, which I never thought you could, but but I tried the rye bread and wrecked that. So I went... Then I followed the rules to the letter and we made just 2. I thought, right, okay, go back. Don't try and run before you can walk. We actually just did the standard white loaf. 2 of those. So we're doing wholemeal tonight.
Oh, well, I've got one too. I laughed at you, but I've got one too. And whenever it goes wrong, and my husband goes, "Did you follow the instructions?" And I go, "Oh, sort of. Yeah." No. You have to follow the instructions to the letter, don't you?
I just thought, well, rye bread will be fine, or
yeah, it's complicated. I mean, I've only had luck with just a loaf. Nothing fancy, but then you eat it all in like a day. Yeah,
I've eaten a lot of bread.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
But yeah, it's nice. And that is that for me. What about some results? Shall we have a look and see what races have gone on? Trail Outlaws Penshaw Half Marathon, and the winner was Steve Rankin in 1:31. I wonder, Steve's a fast local runner, and because they all went off basically like because of COVID, when they turned up, they'd check in and they'd race. So there'd be no start line. So for Steve, it would have been like a bit of a time trial.
Yeah.
I wonder what it's like for people who are trying to race an event when you don't know who you are racing against. But the first lady was Fran. Oh my goodness. How do you pronounce that one, Eddie?
Dembele
in 1:45. I've got to pop it on YouTube actually. I was there with my GoPro. And I filmed everybody and I've done it in slow motion. So apart from the first few people that went through, I tried, oh my goodness, I'm not an event photographer. I tried to take pictures of everybody too. And I basically, anyone who knows about cameras, I didn't have my shutter speed was too slow. So everybody was blurry. About 600 rubbish photographs. Thank goodness I had the GoPro.
The thought was there.
Next time, I'll get it right next time.
Next time.
Every day's a school day, Eddie.
The wall. Yes. The wall. Winner and first male, Dan Tipcombe. First female, Rachel Lloyd. Yeah. Sub 10 hours. That's good for that, isn't it?
Is it about 70 miles, the wall?
Yeah, it's about that, isn't it?
I like the sound of it, but...
Yeah, I quite like the sound of that one too. It's a bit high profile for me. Yeah. Then they get expensive, don't they?
Yeah, I don't fancy the price tag on it. But yeah, a lot of people I know were doing. My timeline was flooded with pictures of people, selfies on the wall. It was great. And I always thought, do you actually go near the wall? And I did.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Quite a few. You're not actually on it, but I did see quite a few pictures of people near Hadrian's Wall. So. Yeah, that looked quite good. And then we had, oh my goodness, Ross Jenkins, the big
Ross Jenkins. This popped up and we're actually going to speak to it. We're just arranging an interview to talk to him now.
Yeah, we got him in.
And he did 4 rounds, Bob Graham, but may know that one. Paddy Buckley, Dennis Rankin and Charlie Ramsey, all in 7 days, 4 rounds, 4 countries, 152 summits, 390k, 32,000 meters of climbing. 115 hours moving.
I wonder how he went in between rounds. I know John Kelly cycled all that, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he cycled, but we're going to have a chat with him all about that. Love hearing all about, I love people that set these challenges.
Yeah.
And then go and do them and how they did it. And just normal people that put themselves, as you know, I'm a big fan of Pain Cave.
I did see, is it someone, I felt really not sorry for Paul Nelson. He's quite a competitive guy, doesn't need my sympathy, but he focused on he was thinking about the Steve Parr round. And then I forget the guy's name, but I did see at the weekend, somebody broke the Steve Parr round too. So if Paul Nelson's going to have another go, he needs to run a bit faster. And
Sabrina Vijay broke his Wainwright's record this week. Oh, not Paul Nelson.
Teeny.
Paul Teeny.
All the Pauls.
Paul Teeny. Huge congratulations to Sabrina Vijay. And again, 3 attempts. Was it her 3rd attempt?
Yeah, just dust yourself down.
She knew she could do it. And she did it. She needs a t-shirt with that on.
Fall down 4 times, get up 5 times.
I love it. Gosh, well done her. It's huge. We have to get her on the show again.
Is that even possible? Fall down 4 times, get up 5 times.
You might need the 5th fall there, Gary. Jurassic Coast 100 winner male Douglas Clark and female winner Rachel Fossett. Oh, that's some up and down, that Jurassic Coast. That must take it out on your quads. So lots of races happening.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Busy people getting it done, events, getting it done as well, getting the events on. I think it's fantastic, just making it all possible and safe for people to race again. It is great to see. This
week, we caught up with GB international trail runner Tom Evans. I don't really know anything about him. We've got friends in common before we chatted to him, and but I've heard him interviewed on a lot of podcasts, and so we wanted to talk to him about other details, and he was such a nice guy, wasn't he?
He was lovely, yeah.
He was way more relaxed than I thought he would be, or he had been in previous, maybe it was our very astute interviewing.
Good cop, bad cop.
But we had a lovely, even before the interview, we talking about his chickens and his dogs, and he tells Run to the Hills. He said to us before the interview, if I like you, I'll tell you what I'm going to do for this summer. So we turned it on, didn't we, Gary? And he gives us
playing with my hair and everything.
You were playing your hair, I was stroking my beard. And he lets us know, we won't spoil it, but at the end of the interview, what he's aiming for at the end of this summer. So sit back, have a cup of tea, get out for your long run. Here's Tom Evans.
Thanks for listening. And if you're enjoying this episode, then pop a post on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Spotify or wherever you are tuning in from. Head over to YouTube too and subscribe to our channel.
We are delighted to welcome to the show this week Tom Evans, the UK's biggest shining trail running star. I'll give you a quick recap of his CV, and then we were going to dive into some questions. Gary and I have just had to actually delete a lot of questions because we had so many, and we decided Tom probably had some more things to do than talk to us. So Tom first burst into the scene, coming 3rd place in the Marathon des Sables. He then went on to win CCC. He's the course record holder for South Downs Way 50, a race I know is dear to a lot of our hearts, the Costa Rica Coastal Challenge, and he finished in 3rd place at the Western States 100 in his debut 100-miler. He is not only an incredible trail runner, he is also smoking fast on the roads. And I remember when Tom first burst onto the scene, thinking, no way someone who ran that fast on the road will be able to run that fast on the trail. And he has proved me wrong time and time again. He is one of those rare guys that can transfer that road speed onto the trail. It must drive the Europeans mad. Anyway, enough of that. How are you, Tom? Where are you? And have you been for a run today?
So I am at home in Loughborough. The sun is shining. Yesterday they said it was going to be the hottest day of the year, and today they've said it's going to be the hottest day of the year again, which is great news. Yes, I have
British weather.
I know. It was probably the coldest day of the year a couple of weeks ago.
Right, yeah.
And we love weather. For anyone who's not British listening to this, and yes, I have been for a run this morning. Joined by this one who has just popped ahead,
Hey.
Poppy. And yeah, I'm very well, thank you. And yeah, thank you for that amazing introduction. And yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
So can we rewind a bit? I know there's been lots of chat. I've listened to you on podcasts and seen you on YouTube and stuff about how you sort of burst into the running scene. How many years ago? Maybe like you're not old and decrepit like Gary and I, but can you tell us a little bit about your running journey and what's got you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I suppose to rewind the clock sort of back to school days. I always ran at school, and I probably was always the fittest at school. If ever we had we did a cross country race once a year at school, and I would win that without really training and wouldn't think too much of it. And played lots of team sports, and sort of rugby for me was sort of always my main sport, probably because all my friends did it. And I wasn't necessarily the best, but I always ended up being in the right place at the right time. But that's only because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I then had to run.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you were so fast, you just appeared. There he is.
And so I would be saying, "Oh, you had a really good game." And I was like, "Well," and I sort of went with it. And I was like, "Yeah." I sort of just ran, and I sort of happened to get there before someone else. And so then I left school and I joined the army straight after A-levels, and I went to Sandhurst and I commissioned into the Welsh Guards, and I've now left the army after 7 great years. And while I was in the army physical training is not, if you're fit, it's not necessarily difficult, but no matter who you are, it makes you really robust and really tough. Yes, it's probably not particularly good for your joints because you're wearing ill-fitting shoes with a heavy pack on your back on all sorts of terrain, sleep deprived, you haven't eaten enough. So the sort of conditions aren't really there. And I'll come back to the army in a little bit. And in 2016, I had 3 friends all in the army who raced Marathon des Sables. And they did really well. They finished in the top 300. And when they got back, we went to the pub, and foolishly I bet them, "Oh yeah, you guys did really well, but I reckon I could do better." And I have nothing to back this up. So played rugby for the army. I had run 1 park run, but I've always been up for a challenge. So I did my first ever triathlon was an Ironman distance. I like challenges.
Yeah.
And that's what, at this time, that's what Marathon des Sables was going to be. It was going to be a challenge to see what I could do. I wasn't a runner. I didn't have a running coach. I didn't follow a program. If I had an hour, I'd run for an hour. If I had 2 hours, I'd run for 2 hours. And funnily enough, we were on an exercise with the Welsh Guards the week before Marathon des Sables, and the exercise ended up running over, and I very, very nearly wasn't allowed to go. And had that happened, there's no way we'd be having this conversation now, because I would have thought, okay, well, it's not meant to be. I won't run.
You must have been a bit tired. Did you go straight from exercise then to?
Yeah.
Did you have a shower?
I was released 12 hours before. And so to talk how amateur I was, I bought my watch at the airport before we flew out. Like proper unprepared. But I actually think things like that have sort of set me up in really good stead, because I think the thing that I have learned now being a full-time athlete is athletes train to perform at their best when they're feeling their best.
Yeah.
So you've had a really good training block, and then you've carb loaded and you've tapered, and you're stood on the start line sort of full of beans and raring to go. Whereas in the military, you are trained to perform your best when you're feeling your worst. So all of the every sort of big operation happens at the end of a long insertion march, or you've been up for hours planning it. And I think ultra running is far more like being in the military.
Yeah.
Races are won and lost when you are feeling your worst, because you don't know what's happening on the trails a mile ahead of you. So I think sort of that coming in from it, yes, I've not got necessarily a running background, but I have a very physical, very robust background, plus the mental strength side of things. I always almost see it as I was sort of the iceberg underneath the water. And now with this sort of specialist training is the tip of the iceberg, because that physical fitness, that robustness, that mental strength is there, and is probably, your touch wood, if my body allows it, will always be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, I think that's what allows me to be able to compete with the best runners in the world, both in the mountains and at Western States, even though you live in the UK, in Loughborough, where the biggest climb here maybe takes me 6.5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't live in the mountains, I don't live in the deserts, yet you can still, with that tip of the iceberg training block stuff, you can perform. And I realize we've gone slightly off how I started.
No, it's lovely. I was listening. I was thinking, this is all so true, because I'm learning all this as well. I've been out in the Alps for about 6 years now, but I'm learning all about how so much more important the robustness of the body is. And actually the running is just like the icing on the cake. But if you can be really strong, and just like you said, when the going gets tough, if you can rely on that strength rather than the running, the world's your oyster.
Being a problem solver too, I think that helps.
It's a problem solving. It's so 100%. Many lessons.
100%.
So then you quickly found lots of success and signed up to become a full-time athlete. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like now, and how different your life is now than when it was sort of in the army? What was the transition like?
The transition was pretty seamless. In my final year of the military, the Welsh Guards in particular were incredible and just said, look, we love what you're doing. Frustrating, because trail running isn't an Olympic sport, and I wasn't doing any short running, half marathon at the time.
They couldn't fund you, I guess, could they?
Precisely. It wasn't recognised. It was a hobby. But the Welsh Guards saw sort of the vision that actually what you're doing is really good, and you're pretty good at it. So we'll give you the best chance of doing as well as you can. And so I left the army the day before I raced Western States. So Western States was really my send off. So it was pretty high stress.
Motion.
Yeah. So when I raced CCC in 2018, I was very much with the army, and actually it was a couple of days after that I handed in my notice to say, like, right, I want to be full time. So I guess what does it look like? I think if you took a sprinter or a middle distance runner, there are very few athletes who will make the Olympic finals who are not full time. Yeah. And then the more sort of, yes, there are lots of marathon runners who are not full time, and the majority of trail runners and ultra distance runners are not full time. But I thought, for me, like, right, if I've come from such a different background where it's not solely running, I've managed to see sort of what life is like as a sort of semi-professional rugby player and in the military, and now as a runner. And I guess sort of I looked slightly outside the box and sort of thought, like, right, the best athletes in the world are full time. Let's find a way where I can make it work. And what does an 800 meter runner do that I don't do? Or what does a Ironman triathlete do that I don't do? And I guess if you look at a marathoner, take someone like Eliud Kipchoge, he will only race 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Whereas you see some trail runners racing 8, 9 times a year. And you just think, well, I just don't see how that works. When you're racing 8 times a year and you're not getting, like, I don't think I will be the best version of myself for another 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And I need to get there first, and I need to be consistent, and for me to be as good as I possibly can be, I need to focus on it. So I guess each day looks pretty different. Like, I'm fortunate enough now that I train 7 days a week. I very rarely, very occasionally will take a full day off. My fiance Sophie is a triathlete. So we train quite a lot together, and for sort of my rest day probably means of going out on the bike for 90 minutes, stopping for lunch. I think the big thing, if you work a full-time job, do I think you can run the mileage needed to be able to perform at the highest level that you can perform? Yes, 100%. But do I think you can recover and do the marginal gains, if we use a cycling term, in order to get as good as you possibly can? And in my honest opinion, I don't, because I think we worked out the other day, I spend double the time that I spend running during the week, which is quite a lot when you average 120, 130 miles a week. The time that I spend recovering, sort of actively, is double the time that I spend running.
Did you find that quite hard, coming from army background and always being a go kind of guy, being busy, that now you're busy is actually needs to be not being busy?
Yeah, 100%. But for me, I don't, if I'm sort of lying on the sofa doing nothing, I kind of don't, yes, it is recovery, but I don't see it as recovery. For me, it's right, I've got my Normatec inflatable boots on, or
love those.
I've got Compex on, or I'm foam rolling, or whatever it is, or I'm having a massage, or even if it's just going to the gym and doing, I don't like sitting still, even if it's going to the gym for 20 minutes to do some ankle stability stuff, I wouldn't have the time to do that. Whereas actually now, I can do it every day. And I've not got any time pressures. So yeah, I think for me, it's been a huge insight, and it has hugely helped my performance. Having said that, because you have so much time, you can really overdo it. Take now, for example, the weather is great. I wasn't supposed to run this morning. It wasn't on my training program, but I thought, actually, the weather's so nice. I don't know when it's going to be this nice again. So I'm going to make the most of it, and I'll go out on my bike this afternoon, and what should be a 2-hour ride will probably turn into double that, because I
find that's the key to any successful, healthy relationship with training. The sun is shining, you want to train, do it, because it's Britain. 2 days time, it's going to be raining, and you'll be like, I'm cutting this short. This is horrendous. I think it's much more healthy to have an approach like that, and more organic. There's a time and a place, obviously, for the structure, but when I'm the same. If it's a beautiful day and I've got like a 30-minute run, yesterday I was like, I'm going to push this to 2 hours.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, and I think that's sort of everything in moderation. And people say, oh, you bike for 4 hours, that's probably not in moderation, but relatively it is. We've got the sun's going to be shining, say, for 18 hours. I'm only going outside for 4 of them, so yeah. And I think it's how you recover from it. It's right, and like you said earlier, it's problem solving. Right, the problem now is you have trained 4 hours today, more than you're supposed to. Now solve that problem. Right, your nutrition plan needs to be a little bit different, and you need to eat a bit more, and you need to eat the right things, and you need to recover a little bit better. And actually that probably means that instead of watching The Mayor of Easttown tonight,
I haven't started that yet.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Is it scary?
No.
Okay.
A little bit jumpy in places, but it's not, I can't do scary. Anything sort of over 15 I can't do.
PG, I'm PG.
Yeah. But it's, and because of that, and it's like, right, well, actually, I'm going to have to go to bed earlier tonight. And I think because you've got the whole day, you can plan these things, you can structure these things in. And if I wake up tomorrow and I'm a bit sore and I'm a bit stiff, I can sort of speak to the guy who does our soft tissue pool, and I can try and get a massage tomorrow morning. And it just gives me the time that actually, or I might wake up tomorrow morning and be like, oh, I really don't feel great, and I'll stay in bed for another 2 hours and sleep a bit more. So I think being a full-time athlete, that's what it's allowed me to do. It's that I've still got that structure, but yeah, I'm super flexible. And I think it's the same with ultra running. You have to be super flexible with ultra running because things will happen that you haven't planned for. And that's sort of all back to the whole problem solving thing. And I like problem solving. It's a very military thing. So yeah, I think for me, it was just, I can't really do anything in half measures. So it was either, right, get a real job and work full time and never reach your running potential, or actually give it a really good go. And the first year was sort of pretty tough financially. But I'm pretty sensible. And when I was in the army, sort of saved quite a bit, and thankfully then had a really good year of running. That has now allowed me to has secured me in the running sphere, to be able to do it for hopefully much longer.
I'm really curious as to you mentioned that your fiance Sophie Caldwell is a GB triathlete. I admire her hugely. I love following her on social media. And how is it living with another full-time athlete? Because I know from personal experience, when I'm done a massive session or something, I'm like to my husband, you cook dinner. I can't, you got to deal with all this. What do you like say, right, if you're going to do a massive run there, I'll make sure I've got a bit of energy left, or do you kind of make a plan?
Yeah, very much plan. So we will sort of on a Sunday afternoon, which we both have off, we will make a plan of what does the week look like for both of us, and everything will then be periodized, and 9 weeks out of 10 it's all exactly the same. But for example, Soph's racing next weekend in Leeds. I am the chef, I am the cook, because I love cooking, and it's not, I think the thing that people say, oh, nice food is not, there's a difference between food and nutrition. And as an elite athlete, you need nutrition, but actually there's no reason why you can't make it seriously tasty at the same time. And yeah, it's definitely something that I have worked on a lot in the last year, is cooking, and cooking simple things that you'll be able to get everywhere. And we've got a rice cooker here, so we've sort of experimented sometimes with that. We got given a tagine for Christmas. We've had quite a lot of tagines. They're a great bit of kit. I think living with another athlete, it's at the same time, it's the best thing in the world, but it's also the worst thing. So in the best thing, because you have that relatability and you understand that a session goes badly, that's fine. You can be in a mood about it, but actually you've got the other person to say, look, you're being an idiot. And you kind of things are understood without necessarily saying it. But then it becomes the worst thing when either someone's not had a particularly good race or the other person's injured.
Yeah, I was going to say the injury must suck if one person's like, I'm off for a run.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they come back, oh, how was your session? Like, oh, yeah, it was so good. I got my maximum power in this, or I got the Strava segment here, and then I'm just sat there being like, oh, God, I just want to go and train.
This is great lessons for marriage, though, because you've got to learn.
Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, I think it's been super interesting. I have learned a lot from her. And I'd like to think she's learned a lot from me. Her running has really improved. So
it has so improved. You take credit for that, Tom.
I take full, and in reality, I take zero. But as long as people believe that it's me, then that's fine. No, she's been absolutely fab. And no, she's sort of more in charge of the animals. I'm more in charge of sort of the upkeep of the house and a bit of gardening. And I walked into a tree yesterday. Ran into a tree yesterday pretty hard in the garden. I've got a bit of a cut there, which had a bit of super glue on it last night. So and we'll keep the hat on.
Keep the cap on.
Problem solving.
I haven't shaved it in my head quite yet.
You mentioned you were the chef of the house, and I'm really curious. How do you approach your nutrition as an athlete? Are you kind of scientific based, or some athletes we've had on before, they seem to fuel themselves on cake and brownies and stuff like that? But yeah, how do you go towards your kind of food choices?
I think kind of the same as training. Everything in moderation is fine. Would I recommend having a slice of cake every day in a training block? No, but in big training blocks, if I'm training 5-6 hours a day, I need the calories. Like, I don't want to. I guess it is a scientific approach, sort of in the sense that I don't want to reach race weight until race day.
Yeah.
And as an ultra runner, in order to be robust, you don't want to be at sort of less than 5% body fat, especially in the UK in the winter. And if you are running for 6 hours, like I'll do 6 hours of no fueling, and just see what happens. So the only thing that we weigh is breakfast. As I definitely see as the most important meal of the day, because we've probably already trained before it, but then that's kind of what sets us up for the big sessions of the day. And then if you miss lunch, then you might just sort of be snacking until dinner. And then at dinner, you can always add something more because your stomach's not going to be bad. So yeah, we weigh out breakfast. But apart from that, it's kind of just eating with our heads. Like, it's okay, well, we're recovering from today's training and preparing for tomorrow. So if we have 2 easy days, for example, and then I'll speak to Andy Hobdell, my coach, and if Sophie got a couple of easy days, and if it works for me to have easy days, then we'll have easy days together. So then on an easy day, sort of carbohydrate intake will go down a little bit. We'll maintain the same amount of calories, but we'll boost it up. And that might be the day of, let's go out for coffee and a piece of cake or something. Or it's we'll have a big barbecue like we had yesterday. So yeah, it's got to be super flexible, and it's problem solving again. It's this is the outcome, right? Well, now how do I get back to it? Right, the goal of today's training or this week's training is ... Right, okay. In order to get there, what do I need to achieve? So, and then you think about sort of the nutrition, which, like, I sort of describe it as sort of a training triangle. There is each element of the triangle, so training, nutrition, and recovery, all have to work in sync.
Yeah,
like you can't, and there's the saying, you can't out train a bad diet, and these things. It's so true. And I think
dear Gary,
it's so true. And a bad diet doesn't necessarily mean a piece of cake a day. That's actually fine. Like if that's sort of the extra, if you are still having sort of fruit and veg, and you are still sort of hitting your protein and targets or whatever, however scientific you want to be, then everything in moderation is fine. And actually, if having a piece of cake a day stops you from having a whole cake once a week, then I'd take that. I'd take that every day of the week. Everything in moderation is absolutely fine.
I do like cake. I like a pasty every now and again too. But yeah, moderation. I think everyone thinks I eat pasties for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But no. That's because I talk about it all the time. I'm really, I see Adidas, the Terex range. They've got some pretty cool looking shoes out relatively recently. Actually, I think their whole range seems to have spruced up quite a lot. How did you get involved with Adidas? I'm really interested in that side of things.
So I wore Hoka shoes for Marathon des Sables, and I really liked them. I guess it's that kind of internet search of ultra distance shoes. And in 2017, 2018, it was either sort of Salomon or Hoka. So I bought both and I wore both, and I sort of decided on Hoka. And so from there, so I guess I ended up just running in Hokas and for the trails. And I'd always run in Adidas. And my sort of football boots or rugby boots were always Adidas. And I guess sort of that's just my era of growing up playing sport. Of you've got David Beckham and Johnny Wilkinson, right? What are they wearing? Right, that's what I want to be in. So I guess sort of really bought into the brand then. And I remember, and I was Hoka for 2018. And I remember in racing in the Trail Running World Championships, which Luis Alberto won, who was wearing Adidas. And I spoke to him afterwards and said, oh, really interesting about this, and sort of didn't think so much of it. And then raced Costa Rica Coastal Challenge with Timothy Olsen, who was an Adidas athlete, and spoke to him a little bit about it then, and ended up having a meeting with the Adidas team manager, Robert, in Chamonix before CCC in 2018. And he just wanted to chat to see sort of what my plan was moving forwards, and had I considered this, and sort of thought, oh, not really, but let's keep in contact. And I then went out to the Adidas headquarters in Germany, and sort of met with the whole team out there. Sort of, for me, the relationship is like, I don't see it. I'm not a sponsored athlete from everything. I'm in a partnership with a certain amount of brands, because it's very much what I give. I will give a lot, and I want to get that back in return. And that doesn't mean financial, it doesn't mean kit. I guess it means sort of the loyalty, the trust, and the respect. So yeah, when I went out and I got to meet the whole team, it was really an insight for me, being like, right, this is something that I really want to be involved in and really want to be a part of. And I sort of went to them and said, look, if I want to be part of the brand, then I want to be able to have sort of my real stamp on it. And I want to create a shoe, or create numerous shoes, that are going to allow me to reach my potential, but also allow other people on the trails to feel the same as I do. Because you see with so many brands, and I don't want to diss any brands, but you take a brand that every single 90% of their athletes are wearing prototype shoes that aren't available to the public, and you see that and you're like, well, yes, it's got the same,
but that's
brand.
not widely known as well, and I feel that's false advertising a lot in the case as well, because then people
100%.
try the shoes and they go, but how do people wear these for ultras? And I feel that's really bad, especially in a sport like ours, which is all about community and about sharing the trails and about being open for all.
For me, people sort of speak about being honest and having integrity, and for me it was all about, right, this is what I do, this is what I wear, you can do it as well. The result may not be the same. You may be, and hopefully I'll be stood on the podium, but actually it doesn't, in trail running, it doesn't really matter where you finish. The majority of people will do a race to complete it rather than to compete in it. But they start on the same start line, go over the same mountains, finish at the same finish line. And if I can make their journey any better and people love talking about shoes, and you see it so much with road running at the moment. And I think that will come into trail running in the next I know it's coming into trail running in the next couple of years. And you want people to be able to enjoy it as much as they possibly can. And if I've got a say in that by sort of listening to people saying, oh, actually, I find these Adidas shoes a little bit too thin. It's like, all right, well, why don't we have the thin ones? People who have thin feet like I do. But then also, why don't we allow people to be able to customize their shoes, and how you would get a tailor-made suit for your wedding and wear it once? Why can't you get, if you've got a big race that's really important for you, why can't you get a pair of shoes tailor-made? Because you want the two main reasons why people DNF races: stomach issues and feet issues. Stomach issues, super easy to sort out, train with it. Feet issues, you want to have the most, and when people find a pair of shoes, they'll buy 5 of them, because they're like, oh, I want to make sure these
myself
stay about it. Precisely. And actually, if you can have a shoe that is completely made for you and is going to be the comfiest thing ever, and you know that that's not going to be an issue, then why wouldn't you do that? And I guess that's of my vision that I want to go. So you can get sent like nowadays you can be sent an insole pack that you mold for yourself, or you measure you take the exact measurements and then send them back, and 2 weeks later you've got something in the post. And that's kind of where I want to go it, because
it's like a ski boot. Like a ski boot. You put so much work into your ski boot and blowing it out and having insoles. You'd never just buy one off the rack and go, well, this will fit me. And actually, a trainer is actually much more vital that, a ski boot than a ski boot. But I've spent like 3 years perfecting my ski boot. That's why I'm not very good at skiing, I'm sure. So I'm still in the perfection stage.
As soon as it's there. But I think sort of that's the thing, that yes, running is such an easy sport, but people spend so much time and effort and money training and racing that actually when you get the opportunity to race, you want to make it as good as possible. Now, especially sort of coming out of lockdown, people really want to get back racing, and you want to be able to have you want to be the best version of yourself on that day. And if that means that you need to wear a special pair of shoes so you feel the fastest and it's going to make you feel more comfortable on the trails, then amazing, because actually that hard work, you owe it to yourself to make sure that you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to do as well as you possibly can, whether that's to win a race or to finish a race. For me, it's the same. It's your personal goal. My personal goal is to win this race, for example, but someone else's goal might be to do it before the cutoff time.
Yeah.
Did we both achieve our goal? I may have finished second. I didn't achieve my goal. They may have finished it by 1 minute. They achieved their goal. Who is the more successful athlete?
Yeah, it's a good point. Very good point. If it's possible, could we talk about the London Marathon trials? I watched it avidly, and I know the day kind of didn't go as you'd hoped it would. Explain a bit about listeners what happened. I know, is it mile 22? You kind of came off the course. Say a little bit about that, and then what happened afterwards would be really interesting to share.
Yeah, so I kind of this time last year sort of decided, look, trail running requires so many volunteers and so many people in order to make a race work. Do I want to risk those people being there if they're even there? And two, do I think races are going to happen? And I sort of decided, right, I don't think races are going to happen. And if races are going to happen, they're going to be shorter road on a loop, because it's easy to control. There are less controllables and they might happen. And for me, I'm such a goal-based athlete. I need to have races, or I need to have challenges. And for me, this was just one way of, having not come from a running background, never focused on 5K, 10K, half marathon. I thought this would be a really good opportunity to sort of take one step backwards in order to take 2 steps forwards. And it's really paying off now, which is, I'm super happy about. So I raced a couple of half marathons. I was fortunate enough to be selected for the GB team for the half marathon world championships.
Oh, in Poland, yeah.
Poland, which was really cool and just amazing to get a GB vest for road running. And so that's now, I've been lucky enough to race a GB quite a lot in sort of lots of different distances, sort of trails, mountains, cross country, now road. So the track vest that eludes me, that I don't think I'll ever get. But who knows? Never say never.
Never. Steeplechase. There's all sorts.
The chat guys are so talented in it. I don't enjoy it either, and I don't want to do things that I don't really enjoy. But so then got the opportunity to race in the marathon trials, and training had gone really well. And just on the day, feeling really good, sort of running on pace, and just all of a sudden, sort of just stopped, and I collapsed. Wasn't 100% sure what it was at the time, and neither was the medical staff who were there. So I was then put in an ambulance, taken to hospital. Had lots of tests when I was at hospital, lots of ECGs, as they were worried that it was my heart. So I ended up spending 36 hours in hospital, overnight, which wasn't ideal because you've had a bad race you're not happy about, and especially during COVID, you're not allowed. I was in a ward, you're not allowed anyone there. So it was probably the most alone that I've ever felt. And you're just thinking, I've just put the last year into this race and it's gone not to plan. so yeah, I was pretty beat up about that, and sort of for the last, she's only finished sort of a month or so ago, sort of trips to specialists into hospitals, and have had sort of ECGs while sort of ECG under stress, so on the treadmill, a heart and lung MRI, CT scan. So had the full works, and
Wow.
the best. People sort of say, "Oh, you're sponsored by Red Bull. That must be amazing." Yes, it is amazing because of the medical support that I get.
I was going to ask if that was Red Bull were able to get you.
Yeah, it is almost, it's like being a lottery funded athlete where you get support sort of through the governing body for medical things, and there's absolutely no way I'd be here without the support from Red Bull. So yeah, it's been invaluable, and there's no way. Yes, you could have done it, and you could have done it with Bupa, but there's no way you'd have got an appointment probably this year. And for me, it was I'm not running until I'm not allowed to run until I've been sort of signed off. So thankfully, I've now been fully signed off. Which sort of kind of leaves the question of what exactly happened, and still now we're not 100% sure. The things that we're sort of putting it down, like I had zero energy, and I guess I've never gone into a race with sort of much publicity around it, because I've sort of always been a bit of a small fish, I guess, and I've always sort of outperformed how I probably should have done. So I take Western States, for example. I think I was bid to sort of finish, maybe top 10 would have been an amazing day. So I had a little bit of press around it, but not much. Whereas actually before the trials, it was pretty relentless. So I think I probably sort of let that pressure get to me a little bit, which I didn't think of much before, but it does use energy. So it was probably pretty close on the line, and my fueling was really good throughout the race, but who knows? I think it probably was a fueling issue. But yeah, it was one of those. It's a huge learning curve, and sort of actually make mistakes in. Yes, the trials would have been great to do really well in, but actually it's not what I want to do with my career. I want to race on the trails. I want to race in the mountains. And actually the lessons that I learned from this are huge. And if that means, I'm not doing if I take UTMB, for example, and doing all of the sort of sitting in the booth at the expo and doing all these things, more than happy to do it, but I'll do it 3 days before my race. Or I'll do it after my race. But actually, I don't want that stress, and I don't want that pressure. So it's being able to build, it's problem solving. Yes, you're an ambassador for a brand, so you need to be there and you need to show yourself there. But actually, what would you rather? Me sat in a booth for 45 minutes, having pictures and doing autographs, or me trying to win a race?
I think we talk about this quite often, how stress comes in many forms, and as runners and athletes, you just think it is the physical activity, but juggling work, family, press conferences, whatever it is, you really just...
Gary, do you have to juggle press conferences?
Yeah.
For your Bob Graham round.
We've got a popular podcast, Eddie.
The Newcastle Gazette are wanting you the back page story.
But you're the Pete Lee Star, I think. Not
At least it's the back page, not page 3. I think you'll be all right.
Not for Gary, no.
I don't want to say that.
He's tried.
Oh.
Tom, we've talked a lot about you've done an array of races on the road and on the trail. Anybody's listening to this, have you got any top tips you'd give for people, especially coming out of COVID, when perhaps people haven't done any races for a long time, or have sort of put back their goal race for a while? Any top tips for people thinking about doing an ultra or towing the start line of a trail race for the first time? I saw on Instagram you crewed for a good friend over the weekend. That looked super fun.
I did. So we talk about the crewing first. It was the first race that I'd crewed the whole thing for, and it was London
pressure.
to Brighton.
You were under pressure, and he was under pressure with you crewing him. He must have been like, "Oh my God, the world's watching this."
I think he loved it because he was running in a group. He was running in a group from the beginning, and so I crewed him at the first point. And he said, about a minute later, someone asked, "Why on earth is Tom Evans crewing for you?" And he loved it. And he's the best man for our wedding. And I asked him the week before, and the way that he came up here a couple of months ago, and I've got sort of these big pair of Oakleys that he loved and he wouldn't take off, and he wore them when we were out running on the bike, and basically it was a training camp for him. So I got him a pair of these glasses as sort of the "Will you be my best man?" asking, but had them engraved at the bottom. Brett, best man, ? And he put the glasses on, he's like, "Oh, I love these so much, didn't notice the thing." So kept it under wraps for about 5 minutes while he was wearing them. I was like, "Mate, you've got to look at this." So that's the story of those glasses. But yeah, I loved it. And for me to be able to see, I've only ever really seen, I don't want to sound arrogant at all, I've only ever really seen the front of a race. And actually seeing, I learned so much from, he finished 5th, which is incredible. But I learned so much from watching that sort of area of the race and sort of how other people want to feel. And I've started doing a bit of coaching, and actually for me to be able to see other runners' journeys was incredibly powerful and incredibly inspiring for me. So that was really, really fun. And I guess sort of my top tips, if someone's thinking about doing an ultra or trail race, my first top tip would be do it, sign up to it and hold yourself accountable for it. If you've got something in the diary, if you've got almost like a bookend, if you have that sort of hard mark line in the sand, which hopefully will happen, but who knows, after the last year that we've had, it will probably be cancelled the week before. But go for it.
Edit that bit.
Yeah, edit that bit. When it happens, which it will, at some point, you have something to train towards, you have a goal, and then from there you can work out, right, what do I need to do in order to get to the goal? Am I going to compete in the race, or am I going to just go to complete it? And whether that's a 10K trail race or a 100K trail race. I think my biggest tip for training would be mileage doesn't really matter so much. Don't go chasing endless mileage. But sort of for me, my top tip is you take the race distance and the profile and you work out the ratio of distance to climbing and descending. And then you make your training runs as close to that as possible to condition yourself both mentally and physically for that race, so there are no surprises on the day. That would probably be my top tip. Second tip is just make sure you're fueling enough. So the best trail runners and best ultra runners are the ones that can fuel on the move, because it's basically when you've got nice weather, it's basically like a moving picnic.
I never have gels at a picnic. I don't know about you, but and I also can get things in my mouth, whereas when I'm running it to the cylinder, people don't like that at picnics.
Yeah, it's sort of more like sort of a dog's picnic. You know,
a dog's dinner. That's it.
There we go. It's a dog's dinner.
Well, we talk about pets. Actually, I always lighten the mood at the end of when we come towards the end of the interview. I know you've got a couple of pets. Yeah, if you share with our listeners what pets you've got.
We do. We have got 2 rescue dogs, Poppy and Rocco, who are great, who train with us. And I think the best thing about having dogs is you have a great session or you have a bad session, they don't care. They just want you to go to the garden.
How do they have a great session every day? My dogs never have a bad run. They're always up for it.
Ours bonk quite a bit.
Yeah, but they're running with Tom Evans, poor dogs.
Well, I've bonked running with them, so it's sort of you've got to give it as much as you get it. We then have 8 rescue chickens, ex-battery chickens that we rescued at the beginning of lockdown, and that's just been so rewarding having something to focus on. And we got them, and they were almost featherless.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Properly sort of. Yeah, not the best looking chickens. They weren't winning any sort of chicken modelling awards.
Best of show.
Yeah, but yeah, they're now great, and we get sort of 6 eggs a day, and we don't know if it's everyone's laying, but they sort of do 2 days on, 1 day off, or there are 2 chickens that are just having a free ride, or whatever it is.
Hunt them out.
And then most recently we have a tortoise called Herman. And hopefully getting a rabbit hutch for him today so we can come out into the garden. And then we moved into a house here just before Christmas 2 years ago. And they have some goldfish, and we've got lots of fish in a little pond. So yeah, we have
It's like a zoo.
It's like a zoo, and every time I go away on a training camp, I come back and sort of so present to herself is another animal. So yeah, it's sort of 20 last year with COVID is sort of it's been good for some reasons because we've not added too many animals. But, I think that will be as soon as I go away.
What's next after how do you beat the tortoise? It's going to be some sort of rhino or something.
Yeah.
Goats, I think. I think goats will be the next.
Oh, yes. Classic.
They're naughty, though, aren't they? They're naughty.
Garden goats, yeah.
If you ever, I know you sponsored athletes, but if you ever buy some kit for yourself, you know, is there anything that you spend your own money on?
In the past, yes. I have spent lots of money. Geez, even sort of fairly recently testing other shoes to see, right, what do I really want? And for me, it's not necessarily right, I want the makeup to be this, and this, but this is how I want to feel. So actually, by testing some New Balance trail shoes or some Nike shoes to be like, oh, actually, I like this part of it, but I don't like that part of it. I think sort of best bits of kit, like my nutrition. I don't have a nutrition sponsor, which for me is great because I can sort of, if I want to have Morton gels, I can have Morton gels. If I want to have OTE drink mix, I can have that. If I want to have Lucozade, then
we can sort you out with a box of flapjack if you want.
There we go, perfect. Yeah, but the things like that, it's great because you might try it and actually it will work for some people. Some people might like it, some people might not like it. So I think for me to have that flexibility, these are the best. Look, we buy lots of recovery kits. Sort of, as a professional athlete, you can try, as anyone, you can slide into someone's DMs and try and get them to give you a free something. But actually, a lot of the time, it's just not worth it because I don't know if they might say, "Oh yeah, we'll give you a whatever it is, some recovery boots, but we need you to do 4 posts about it." And I'm like, what if I don't like it? I'm not going to post saying that I like it because that's disingenuous and that's not who I am. So,
and you very soon get caught out by the people following you because you've got to really believe in the product, haven't you? And I do think less is more for athletes that are doing. I understand it's part of the role now, more and more, but you have to be very what's the word? Honest, integrity. Your integrity. It's the integrity, isn't it? Very 100%. Very hard to gain, but very quick to lose. As my mum.
Precisely. And you see far too many people sort of every day they're advertising something new, and you're like, you don't use that. It's just a fib. Whereas, I want people to be able to go on a sort of similar sort of journey that I'm on, whether they're winning a race or they're completing a race. I don't really mind as long as they're achieving their goals. And I'm not going to try and get them to buy something because I got sent a free one. I was like, I'd rather just buy it. If it works, I'll post and say, yeah, this is great. It's genuinely really good. But I think people see too many times now on social media, people posting stuff that they don't use. So now people think that every time an athlete posts about a product, they think that, they're just doing this because they're being paid. But actually, probably 90% of the time, they're probably not. So yeah, it's an interesting one, a daily fought battle.
If somebody wanted to follow your Netflix journey, see what I did there?
I was like, we haven't got much time. What is Gary's last question? We got about 6. What's his last one going to be? Of Netflix. All the ones you could choose, you chose Netflix.
Well, we've had Call the Midwife. We get everything. So yeah, just really curious what you're watching at the moment.
I am rather embarrassingly. I'm slightly binge watched. I think it came out in 2018. SWAT. The series on Netflix. It's just the great thing about it is it's a 40-minute episode.
Perfect time.
So it's a great timing to watch 5 or 6 of them.
I was going to go. I have about time for one.
No, I'm only playing. Yeah, it's a great 40 minutes. Perfect. So I can do if I put my Normatec boots on. So the kind of rule is I try not to watch telly during the day. But yeah, well, we've got one episode of Mayor of Bridgetown to watch. That's been good on Now TV or on Sky.
Did you Line of Duty it?
Oh, Line of Duty it and loved it. Didn't really enjoy the last episode.
I haven't watched it.
I won't spoil it until I read a bit more about it, and then I really liked it.
Oh.
No spoilers.
I've not seen any. Not seen one of them.
It was the bit when the Rock started shooting things up in
now,
it's Steve Arnott that I didn't understand.
As a military man, my husband is an ex-military man also, and finds all these things. He loves it. He loves all these things as well. But when we sit and we watch it, and he watches all the guns and stuff, he's like, "What are the drills? Oh no, that would never happen. That would never happen." I have to go, just watch it. It's just TV.
We're exactly the same, especially with. So we've started watching sort of SAS. Are you tough enough? Whatever it is, and whenever that's on. If it was called sort of How Tough Do You Think You Are?
Yes.
Or something.
Have fun in the Brecon Beacon.
Yeah, it would be great. But because they're saying, oh, this is what Special Forces selection is like. And I kind of sat there being like, no, this isn't it. But it's brilliant. But I just have to take it as okay, just ignore every time they say something to the military, just blank it out. But yeah, apart from that, but we don't watch loads of. Sophie and I, we've definitely got our own programs that if I'm in the house, she's allowed to watch her program. But if she's in the house, I'm not allowed to watch my program.
Sounds like a very healthy relationship to me.
It's very healthy. I'll sort of just go to the kitchen and cook something, or just sit outside and read a book.
Right, I'm conscious we've taken up loads of your time, Tom.
Yes, we have.
Last question. I saw an Instagram post, big news coming up. If you could share that or drop some hints to what that might be, that'd be really good for our listeners.
So I guess some hints. It's all slightly dependent on what happens in Europe this summer. Whether I will definitely do it at some point this year, but whether it's in the summer or sort of in the autumn will slightly depend on that. It is a very well-known UK challenge, FKT, that I believe should be held by a Brit.
A Brit. Oh my God, Gary.
Well, if you want some on-course training this weekend.
Gary, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right.
I love that. I'm sad. I just had an email from a low-key sort of French trail race I'm doing in a few weeks' time saying now, because when we've been vaccinated in France, we get these passports that they scan onto your onto this app, and it said you can only race if you've got this if you've been vaccinated.
Jeez.
So it's really great because the French have done this passport system as soon as you get vaccinated.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be another tricky summer for racing abroad, traveling, for everybody. So in some ways, I think having a goal that is your own goal and that can be flexible, but still excites you and is still super motivating and will be super thrilling for everybody to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was, and if the training looks pretty similar for both, whether I'm racing something at UTMB or I'm doing something in the UK. So actually, if I only make the decision the week before, I make the decision the week before because I can't get out somewhere or I can. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's, things aren't going anywhere. So, I need, like I said earlier, I'm such a goal-based, not
whatever
just
it
athlete,
is.
I'm a goal-based human. I need structure, I need support, and with that, I'm sort of able to do as well as I can. But if I don't have that, I'll just end up watching 6 episodes of SWAT on the bounce.
You're either SWAT or you're not.
Exactly. There we go. So you sounded just like Hondo there.
Indy wants to go and say hi.
Oh,
hello. I've got 2 here.
Say hi. I've had her on a lead all the time we've been talking.
Oh, wow.
I knew she was going to call. Oh, look at the little puppies. Look at the puppies, Lindy. We've got, for our listeners who can't see, we're now all showing our dogs on Zoom, which should
Rex
be a
is-
thing.
Rex is not in the house.
Oh, Rex,
There they are.
Look, there's the
Hello,
fastest
hello.
dogs. You'd all like to go for a run. Oh, Tom, thank you so much for giving up all your time today.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. It's been
Oh,
great
so
fun.
inspirational to talk to you, and so enlightening and so refreshing to hear somebody that's so dedicated to their training but speak about it with such like a holistic and organic approach. And we wish you and Sophie all the best for the upcoming season, both in your races and with your menagerie of animals.
Thank you.
Take care, Tom. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thank
guys.
you
See
so much,
later.
Tom. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
That was great to hear from Tom Eddie. Looks like got a nice setup there with his lots of animals. Every time he goes away, some more appear. And
I love what he said about handling the problem solving.
Yeah.
He's
That's it.
wise,
You know, I think I mentioned it on my Bob Graham round. I couldn't eat anything apart from Kinder mint cake. And even though that was probably causing me the problem with this kind of bloatedness and the sugar, but that's what stayed down. So you just consumed more and more of it.
And I think it's the way he's handled his journey as well, isn't it? Because he's obviously had a huge amount of success, but then also had to cope with that success and with that pushing your body to the absolute limits comes the injury and the what happened at the London Marathon and stuff.
Yeah.
But the way he can handle it and mentally come through it is a testimony to him and the team he's got around him.
And watch this space. Hopefully the planets align and he
asks you to be leg 3 on Bob Graham round.
Oh, goodness me. That's it. I'll be there with a bottle of water. That's about as much as I'll commit to. Yeah, hopefully. I think there's lots of things have to kind of fall into place for an athlete like Tom. You know, races might take priority, but yeah, it'd be nice to see it happen. And all the best and good luck to him. Yeah, fingers crossed. Upcoming races. We've got a biggie, haven't we, over in the US of A.
Western States. I love that race. Oh, I'd love to do that. I would love to do a Western States. And we've got a huge fan of the show, Best Pascal. I mean, my money's on her. My money's on her. Her preparation, her focus. She looks fit.
Yeah.
Lakeland 5 Passes Ultramarathon this weekend. You done that one before?
No, I haven't. I know a few people.
What are the 5 passes?
Oh, goodness.
You know?
You set me up there, haven't you? No, I don't know.
Sounds fun. What's
That's
the weather
not on the
like?
script, Eddie. Don't ask me that. It's not on the script. I know people who were doing it, and I know people who were entered it and can't do it now. I think
you can know all these people. It's the 5 passes. I'm not worried about the entry list.
I'm not too sure why they're not doing it. I think it's too close, maybe to the Lakeland 100 or people's Bob Graham rounds and stuff like that. But yeah, 5 passes around the lakes, ultramarathon. Sounds pretty good. Good luck to everybody towing the line. What's coming up then, Eddie, for you this week, the rest of the week?
A lot of recovery this week. I am big on really listening to my body in recovery week, not planning anything, because I think if you have a plan, in some ways, you feel that you should be ready for what's on the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to be very organic and have a few things that I want to do, but where they go into the week, it depends. And obviously, as we get a bit older, that recovery is not as easy as it was. And also, we were epically dehydrated at a lot of point, and we really calorie deficit over those 3 days because we were only carrying really the fuel, and we had those small meals in the refuge, but we didn't have any. Nowhere near as much as we needed. So that takes a real toll on the muscle damage then and the tissues. So but I only want that. I say that, but I'm like, by the weekend I'll be fine. Okay, that's it. You have this week of recovery, and then you need to be back and training. So I take it real slow. Just go. I try not to do anything over about 45 minutes because I think again. Do you notice that when you feel okay for 30, 40 minutes, and then you're like. Go home, cup of tea now. I don't like to be too far away from a snack as well, so don't want to get to it. Take it nice and easy, and some early nights, lots of good food. So get some vegetables back in because as good as Chia Charge bars are at fueling me, there's not a huge vitamin content. Perhaps we need to mention that.
I've noticed after my 2 weeks have been really relaxed with
yearn for a lettuce.
Yeah, well, last night we had this leftover. I made a vegetable stew, and I could just feel it all go. Every little vitamin was going in there, and I've
vitamin parched body.
I've just had enough of.
Okay, this is good though. I always think you have to get to that point after a huge. Look, I just did a little recce, so I am perfectly sure that by the weekend I'll be fine. But yours was huge, and so you need, and it drives me mad when people don't take enough time off. You need to respect that recovery, physically and like you've done mentally, until you get to the point where you're like, no, I am dirty, I'm unwashed. I feel my aura needs to be cleansed.
I'm definitely ready to start shaping my kind of nutrition up, but whether I'm ready to train again, we'll see.
And that's why not having a like really set and with my clients, I'm like, we do a lot more like over WhatsApp and take it day by day rather than when they're in the block, you know, it's what's on the plan and you do that. But the recovery bit and the sort of come down, I think it really has to be like, so how do you feel? That's really important, because also in the training block, you have to tick off those sessions, and some of them you have to do fatigued. Like you're not going to feel fresh. A lot of it you have to push through to get to that fitness. Whereas this is the stage, and so it goes against what we are as ultra runners of just like battering ourselves.
When do you know when it's fatigue or you just got a bit cozy and doing nothing?
Now, Gary. I think you feel it though. You're an experienced enough runner that you know when you're going running now, there's a little pep in your step. You stop thinking I'm tired and you start thinking I'll go right instead of left. That's the longer route. Or like you feel now, I feel a bit grubby. Everyone's different, but recovery, give yourself some time. But yeah, get back into it now. No one likes slack, Gary.
I've got a good, hopefully it's good. Going to meet up with Hannah Basley at the weekend on Saturday. Ambleside to Coniston Recce. And actually, Neil and Lisa are going to join us too. So there's going to be a little crew of us. They're both doing the Lakeland 50. So it'll be quite nice. I've just got to work out the logistics because we need to be able to get back from Coniston to Ambleside.
Yes.
That should be the least about 1
I
week.
love that bit. I love the Ambleside to Coniston. Nice bit of running there.
Well, in theory, if your legs are okay, on paper it's very nice, but the reality, if you're doing the 100,
well, the recce is completely different if you do that as a leg to the actual race, isn't it? Because especially if you do it as a standalone thing, you're like, it's just a nice long run. And then when you actually get to Ambleside on either the Lakeland 50 or the Lakeland 100, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, because I think it's on paper it's not actually that far, but
16 miles or something, isn't it?
Yeah. It'd be really interesting because my experience of the lakes recently has just been up and down big climbs and then grassy, boggy trails. So to have some quite runnable sections there's going to be some climbing, yes, but nothing like what we've been doing lately. So yeah, looking forward to that.
That would be good to see how your energy is on that too as well.
Yeah.
Don't let Hannah drop you, all right? I'll make sure to take some jelly babies.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that. Just like I said, I might even camp out on the Friday night, go over there if I can escape.
Get your jet boil out.
Yes. I can't wait. Yeah, fingers crossed. And that's it for me, really.
Well, next week, listeners, we'll both be back on it. We'll have been smashing out some 800 meters. We'll be back on form, back doing the press ups. No more beers.
No more. Yeah, that's it. I'm off the beers now.
That was episode 43. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.